Toilet water rising? It's not a major clog. It's a hidden enemy. Have you ever flushed your toilet, watched the water rise toward the rim and thought, this is it. It's about to overflow. For a few seconds, it looks like a disaster waiting to happen. Then, suddenly, the water starts dropping. The toilet eventually flushes. But something clearly isn't right. Most homeowners assume this means there's a major clog somewhere deep inside the drain line. Some immediately reach for chemical drain cleaners. Others grab a plunger, and many end up calling a plumber before they even know what's causing the problem. But after decades of working on toilets and drain systems, I can tell you something surprising. In many cases, the issue isn't a major blockage at all. In fact, the real culprit is often hiding inside the toilet itself. A hidden restriction can slowly rob your toilet of flushing power for years before most homeowners even notice it. The good news? You can often identify the problem in just a few minutes, and in many cases, fix it without replacing a single part. Today, we're going to talk about why toilet water rises before it flushes, the hidden blockage that causes it, and the simple fix that could save you an expensive plumbing bill. And make sure you stay until the end, because I'll also show you a simple maintenance trick that many professional plumbers use to keep toilets flushing properly year after year. To understand the fix, we first need to understand what's actually happening inside your toilet when you flush. Most people think flushing is simple. You press the handle, water goes down, problem solved. But the reality is a little more complicated. Every toilet relies on something called a siphon. When you flush, water rushes from the tank into the bowl. That surge of water creates the force needed to pull waste and water through the trapway and into the drain system. When everything is working properly, this process happens very quickly. The bowl clears, the water disappears, and fresh water refills the toilet. But when the toilet starts losing flushing power, something changes. The incoming water enters the bowl faster than it can leave. Instead of immediately creating a strong siphon, the toilet struggles to generate enough force. That's why the water begins to rise. For a few uncomfortable seconds, it may look like the toilet is about to overflow. Eventually, enough water squeezes through to start the siphon effect, and the bowl finally drains. The important thing to understand is this: the rising water isn't usually the problem. It's a symptom. It's your toilet telling you that something is restricting the flow somewhere in the system. And here's where many homeowners make a costly mistake. They immediately assume the blockage must be deep inside the drain pipe. Sometimes that's true, but surprisingly often, the restriction is hiding much closer than most people realize. In fact, it may be sitting in a part of the toilet that most homeowners have never looked at in their entire lives. Now, let me ask you a simple question. When was the last time you looked underneath the rim of your toilet? Not inside the bowl, not inside the tank. I mean underneath the rim itself. If you're like most homeowners, the answer is probably never. And that's completely understandable. Most people don't even realize there's anything important hiding there. But underneath that rim is one of the most important parts of your toilet's flushing system. They're called rim jets. These small openings sit underneath the rim and direct water into the bowl every time you flush. At first glance, they don't look like much. In fact, most people never notice them, but these tiny holes play a major role in creating the powerful swirling action that helps your toilet flush properly. Think of them like the nozzles on a pressure washer. If every nozzle is open, water flows exactly as designed. But if several nozzles become clogged, performance drops dramatically. The same thing happens inside your toilet. When you flush, water rushes through these rim jets and travels around the bowl. This creates the circular motion that helps push water toward the trapway and start the siphon effect. When the rim jets are clean, the flush is strong and efficient, but when they become restricted, the toilet begins losing power. The strange part is that this doesn't happen overnight. Most toilets gradually become weaker over months or even years. At first, you might notice nothing at all. Then maybe the toilet needs an occasional second flush. Then the flush starts looking weaker. Then one day the water begins rising before it drains. Because the change happens so slowly, most homeowners assume that's just how the toilet works. I've seen people replace fill valves, replace flappers, replace tank components, and even replace entire toilets, only to discover later that the real problem was sitting underneath the rim the entire time. So what exactly is clogging these tiny openings? The answer is something that flows through your toilet every single day. And chances are it's already building up inside yours right now. When most people think about a toilet blockage, they imagine something obvious. Too much toilet paper, a child's toy, a sanitary product, or some object stuck somewhere inside the drain. But that's usually not what's causing this particular problem. The real culprit is often something much less dramatic and much more common. It's mineral buildup, specifically calcium, lime, iron deposits, and other minerals naturally found in your water supply. Every time you flush, water travels through the toilet's internal passages before reaching the rim jets. If your home has hard water, that water contains dissolved minerals. At first, they're completely invisible. You don't notice them, you don't see them, and you certainly don't think about them. But over time, tiny amounts begin attaching themselves to the inside surfaces of the toilet. A thin layer forms, then another, then another. Year after year, those deposits continue growing. Eventually, they begin narrowing the openings of the rim jets. What was once a wide-open passage becomes partially restricted, then severely restricted, and in some cases, completely blocked. A good way to picture this is by thinking about cholesterol buildup inside an artery. The artery doesn't suddenly become blocked overnight. The opening slowly gets smaller and smaller until blood flow becomes restricted. The same thing happens inside your toilet. The openings are still there, but they can no longer deliver the amount of water needed for a powerful flush. And because the restriction develops so gradually, most homeowners never notice the loss of performance until it becomes severe. I've inspected toilets where more than half of the rim jets were almost completely sealed shut by mineral deposits. From the outside, the toilet looked perfectly normal. The homeowner had no idea anything was wrong. They simply assumed they owned a weak flushing toilet. What makes this even more deceptive is that many toilets can lose a significant amount of flushing power while still appearing to function normally. The bowl still empties. The toilet still flushes, but every flush becomes a little weaker than it should be, until eventually the water starts rising high enough to get your attention. And that's usually when homeowners begin worrying about expensive plumbing repairs. The good news is that your toilet often gives several warning signs before the problem reaches that point. The trick is knowing what those warning signs actually are. One of the biggest reasons this problem goes undetected for so long is because homeowners are usually looking for the wrong symptoms. Most people assume a toilet is either working perfectly or completely clogged. But in reality, toilets often give warning signs for months or even years before a serious problem develops. The trouble is that these signs appear gradually, and because they happen little by little, most homeowners simply adapt to them. Let's look at the most common ones. Warning sign number 1. The water rises before every flush. This is the symptom that brings most people here. You flush. The bowl fills higher than normal. For a few seconds, it looks like the toilet might overflow. Then the water slowly disappears. If this happens occasionally, it may not be a major concern. But if it happens regularly, your toilet is telling you that it's struggling to move water as efficiently as it should. Warning sign number 2, the flush looks weak. Think back to when the toilet was newer. The water probably moved aggressively around the bowl. The flush felt powerful. Everything cleared quickly. Now, compare that to what you're seeing today. If the water movement looks sluggish or lazy, restricted rim jets may be reducing the force of the flush. Many homeowners describe it the same way. The toilet still works, but it just doesn't seem as strong as it used to. That's often one of the earliest clues. Warning sign number 3. You need to flush twice. A healthy toilet shouldn't require a second flush for normal use. Yet many homeowners get into the habit of flushing twice and never question why. The problem is that a weak flush may remove most of the contents of the bowl without creating enough force to fully clear everything. The toilet technically works, but not efficiently. And over time, the problem usually gets worse. Warning sign number 4. Uneven water flow around the bowl. This is something plumbers notice immediately. When a toilet flushes properly, water should enter the bowl evenly around the rim. But when some rim jets become clogged, certain areas receive very little water. You may notice strong flow on one side and almost none on another. The flush becomes unbalanced, and that's often a strong indication that several rim jets have become restricted. Warning sign number 5. The problem developed slowly. This may be the most important clue of all. A blockage caused by an object often creates a sudden problem. One day, the toilet works. The next day, it doesn't. Mineral buildup works differently. Performance gradually declines over months or years. The toilet slowly loses flushing power until eventually the symptoms become impossible to ignore. If your toilet has been getting weaker little by little, mineral deposits become a very likely suspect. And the good news is that there's a simple test you can perform in less than a minute to find out. All you need is a flashlight, and what you discover underneath the rim may immediately reveal the source of the problem. If you've made it this far, we're about to get to the point where many homeowners finally discover what's been causing their weak flush all along. And the best part? This test costs absolutely nothing. All you need is a flashlight. Your phone flashlight will work perfectly. Lift the toilet seat and shine the light underneath the rim. Take your time. You may need to crouch down and look from several angles. What you're looking for are the small openings hidden beneath the rim. These are the rim jets we talked about earlier. Now look closely. Do the holes appear clean and open, or do they look partially blocked? Many homeowners are shocked the first time they perform this inspection. Instead of seeing open passages, they find thick white deposits. Sometimes the buildup looks chalky. Sometimes it's brown or orange from iron in the water supply. And in severe cases, some of the openings may appear almost completely sealed shut. But don't stop there. The second part of this test is even more revealing. Flush the toilet while watching the bowl. Pay attention to how the water enters around the rim. A healthy toilet sends water evenly around most of the bowl. The flow should look balanced and consistent. But when rim jets become clogged, something interesting happens. Some sections barely release any water at all. Other areas may produce only a weak trickle. Meanwhile, a few remaining jets are doing all the work. The flush becomes uneven, weak, unbalanced, and that's often the clue that confirms the diagnosis. If you see mineral buildup under the rim and uneven water flow during the flush, you've likely found the source of the problem. But here's where many homeowners make a mistake that can actually make things worse. They find the blockage, grab the nearest screwdriver or metal tool, and start scraping. And unfortunately, that's exactly how some people end up damaging their toilet. Once homeowners discover clogged rim jets, their first instinct is usually the same: great, I found the blockage, now I just need to scrape it out. And that's where many people accidentally create a much bigger problem. I've seen homeowners use screwdrivers, pocket knives, nails, wire brushes, even drill bits. The thinking seems logical. If the opening is blocked, just force the blockage out. But toilets don't always respond well to that approach. You see, those rim jets are part of the porcelain itself, and they're covered by a smooth, glazed surface designed to help water flow properly. When metal tools scratch or chip that surface, they can permanently damage the opening. In some cases, homeowners accidentally enlarge the holes. In others, they create rough surfaces where minerals begin accumulating even faster than before. I've seen toilets where a simple cleaning turned into a toilet replacement because someone got too aggressive with a screwdriver. The goal isn't to force the blockage out. The goal is to dissolve it safely. Think of it this way: the buildup formed slowly over many years. The safest way to remove it is by loosening those deposits rather than attacking them with sharp tools. And fortunately, the solution is much simpler than most people expect. In fact, it's probably sitting somewhere in your kitchen right now. If your flashlight inspection revealed mineral buildup around the rim jets, this is usually the first fix many plumbers recommend. And the best part? It doesn't require expensive tools or harsh chemicals. All you need is ordinary white vinegar. Why vinegar? Because it helps dissolve calcium, lime, and mineral deposits without damaging the porcelain. Start by turning off the water supply behind the toilet. Then flush once to empty most of the water from the tank. Next, remove the tank lid and locate the overflow tube, the vertical tube in the center of the tank. Using a funnel, slowly pour white vinegar into the overflow tube. This allows the vinegar to travel through the internal passages that feed the rim jets. In other words, you're cleaning the blockage from the inside. Let the vinegar sit for several hours. Many plumbers prefer leaving it overnight for heavier buildup. The next day, flush the toilet several times. Then repeat the flashlight test. In many cases, homeowners immediately notice stronger water flow around the rim and a much more powerful flush. But here's something important to understand. The rim jets aren't the only hidden passage that can become clogged. There's another opening inside the bowl that plays an even bigger role in creating flushing power. And most homeowners don't even know it exists. Most homeowners stop their investigation after checking the rim jets. And honestly, that's understandable. The rim jets are responsible for a large percentage of flushing problems, but they're not the only place where mineral buildup can occur. There's another opening hidden inside the bowl called the siphon jet. If you look near the bottom of the toilet bowl, directly across from where you're sitting, you'll usually see a larger opening. This hole may not look very important, but it plays a huge role in creating flushing power. While the rim jets create the swirling action, the siphon jet delivers a powerful surge of water directly into the trapway. Think of it as the engine that helps start the siphon. When the siphon jet is clear, the toilet can generate a strong flush with very little effort. But when mineral deposits begin restricting that opening, the toilet loses a significant amount of power. And the symptoms can look almost identical to clogged rim jets. The water rises, the flush feels weak, the bowl takes longer to clear, and sometimes homeowners clean the rim jets successfully but see only a small improvement because the siphon jet is still partially blocked. The good news is that the same hard water minerals causing one problem are often causing the other. That's why many toilets respond dramatically once both areas are cleaned. But before you assume mineral buildup is definitely the culprit, there's one important question we still need to answer. What if you've checked everything, cleaned everything, and the toilet is still flushing slowly? That's when we need to look beyond the toilet itself. By now, you can probably see why so many homeowners misdiagnose a slow-flushing toilet. The symptoms often point to a serious clog, but many times, the real problem is simply mineral buildup inside the toilet itself. However, not every weak flush is caused by clogged rim jets or a restricted siphon jet. Sometimes the problem lies somewhere else, and knowing the difference can save you a lot of time and frustration. One clue is whether the problem appeared suddenly or gradually. Remember, mineral buildup is usually slow. The toilet gets weaker over months or years. But if the toilet worked perfectly yesterday and suddenly started flushing poorly today, a blockage inside the trapway may be more likely. Another important clue is what the rest of your plumbing is doing. Ask yourself, are other toilets flushing normally? Are sinks draining properly? Is the shower draining as fast as usual? If only one toilet is having problems, the issue is often isolated to that toilet. But if multiple fixtures throughout the house are draining slowly, you may be dealing with a larger drain line issue. Tree roots, a partial sewer blockage, or a restriction somewhere farther down the system. There's also the plunger test. If a few plunges temporarily improve the flush, that often points toward a blockage rather than mineral buildup. Mineral deposits don't usually disappear after plunging. Physical obstructions sometimes do. The key takeaway is this: don't automatically assume the worst. Many homeowners jump straight to expensive sewer inspections or major plumbing repairs without ever checking the toilet itself. And that's exactly why so many people spend money solving the wrong problem. Before calling for an expensive diagnosis, make sure you've inspected the hidden areas we've discussed today. You might discover the solution is much simpler than you thought. And speaking of saving money, there's one simple habit that can help prevent this entire problem from developing in the first place. One of the easiest ways to prevent mineral buildup is also one of the cheapest. Once a month, pour a couple of cups of white vinegar into the toilet's overflow tube before going to bed. Then simply let it sit overnight. As the vinegar works its way through the internal passages, it helps dissolve small mineral deposits before they become large enough to restrict water flow. Think of it like preventive maintenance for your toilet. A few minutes today can help prevent a major headache years from now. Will it stop every plumbing problem? Of course not, but it can dramatically reduce the buildup that slowly steals flushing power over time. And, considering the cost is only a few cents per treatment, it's one of the best maintenance habits a homeowner can adopt. So, if your toilet flushes slowly and the water rises before draining, don't assume you need a new toilet. Don't assume you need expensive plumbing repairs. And definitely don't assume the problem is deep inside your sewer line. First, check the hidden areas most homeowners never inspect: the rim jets, the siphon jet, and the mineral deposits that quietly build up year after year. You might be surprised how often a weak flush is caused by something simple, hidden, and completely fixable. Sometimes, the most expensive plumbing problems aren't the ones that are hard to repair. They're the ones that are easy to overlook. If you found this helpful, be sure to subscribe for more homeowner plumbing tips. And let me know in the comments, have you ever checked underneath the rim of your toilet before today? You may be surprised by what you find.